Médecins Sans Frontières reports 7 people have died and 8 are missing following airstrikes on a hospital it supports in Idlib, northern Syria. A further strike is said to have hit another hospital in Marat al-Numan, south of the city. The medical charity's French president says either Syrian government forces or Russia is behind the attacks. This comes amid separate reports from Turkey, claiming 7 Russian missiles have struck a hospital, a school and other locations in the rebel-held Syrian border town of Azaz. At least 14 civilians were killed, including children, according to Turkish officials. The death toll is expected to rise. Turkey's Prime Minister Ahmet Davutoglu claims Moscow's goal is to leave just 2 options for governance in Syria, current President Bashar al-Assad or ISIL. Speaking from Ukraine, he too blamed Moscow for the Azaz strikes. In an interview published on Monday, Russia's Deputy Foreign Minister said Russian troops would continue airstrikes against ISIL and al-Nusra, despite a proposed ceasefire in Syria. Davutoglu responded from Kiev. Despite last week's ceasefire agreement in Munich, we can see that Russia's intention is to kill more civilians and carry out more massacres in support of the Syrian regime. He claims Russia and the Kurdish YPG militia have closed the humanitarian border north of the Syrian city of Aleppo.
The asylum seekers keep coming, and Europe keeps arguing over what to do. Seeking to stem the flow across the continent, Central and Eastern European leaders are today debating plans to help tighten border security in the Balkans. But Germany, which has borne the brunt of the influx in this migration crisis, objects, amid warnings that any closure of borders into the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia and Bulgaria would simply strand migrants arriving in Greece. It's already overwhelmed and facing an EU ultimatum to get its house in order. But plans for a refugee reception centre on the Greek island of Kos have sparked protests by locals. In the latest rally, some 2,000 people gathered for what turned into an angry confrontation with police. Many on Kos fear a so-called migrant hotspot would hurt tourism, the island's main source of income.
The former head of Russia's anti-doping agency Rusada has died 2 months after resigning his post over a cheating and corruption scandal. The agency said Nikita Kamiya, who is 52, is thought to have suffered a heart attack. Another ex-senior executive who also stood down said Kamiya had complained of feeling unwell after going skiing. He's the second former senior Rusada official to die this month. Russia was suspended from international athletics in November after the World Anti-Doping Agency accused Rusada of covering up cases of drug-taking by leading Russian athletes. Kamayev vehemently defended the organization, saying it had been fighting drugs use effectively. But the following month, he and another executive resigned as Russia began working on lifting the ban ahead of this summer's Olympics in Rio de Janeiro.
It was an arrival fit for a former prime minister. Even the press were on hand. But the venue was Masyau prison in central Israel, where Ehud Olmert has just begun 19 months behind bars for corruption, making him the country's first ex-head of government to go to jail. Before setting off, the 70-year-old released a video statement protesting his innocence. As Prime Minister, I was responsible for the security of the citizens of the State of Israel. At this time, I find it important to say once again, as I said in court, that I plead not guilty to the bribery charges I was convicted of. The case revolved around a contested property deal during Olmert's time as mayor of Jerusalem before he became Israel's prime minister in 2006. A separate 8-month prison terms pending in another case related to cash payments he was alleged to have received from an American businessman.
Steelworkers from all over Europe gathered in Brussels Monday to stop the European Union from granting market economy status to China. Protesters feared the move would make it harder for European companies protect themselves from cheap Chinese exports. Chinese steel is sold so cheap that we can't sell our product anymore. We'll end up jobless.
China has a massive overcapacity. It is in fact so huge that it could supply the USA, Europe 28, Russia, plus all other states with steel. So they have a huge overcapacity, and that's why they're dumping.
While Europe's steel industry has seen thousands of job losses lately, steel imports from the world's largest steel producer, China, have doubled in the last 2 years.
We need to respect the same rules. It's impossible to play as a football, 11 against 11 here and 9 against 13 in China. For this, we need to respect the same rules. For this is important a delay for this MES.
The fact that the European Commission President even met the leaders of industries and union in person today is significant. This doesn't happen very often.
Euronews, Brussels.
Bosnia Herzegovina has formally applied to join the European Union. EU Foreign Affairs Chief Federica Mogherini said Monday in Sarajevo. Although the country was listed as a potential candidate back in 2003, disputes between the Serb, Croat and Muslim communities prevented progress. Membership will not happen overnight, with the 28 EU members now tasked to analyse the application. Critics are already questioning how the citizens of this former Yugoslav republic feel about joining the club and if the EU is resilient enough to absorb them.
Federal police have carried out the largest drugs bust of liquid amphetamine in Australian history. $1 billion worth of ice, as it's known, was found hidden inside gel bra inserts and art supplies in a number of locations across Sydney. 4 Chinese nationals were charged on suspicion of involvement in a drug syndicate.
The joint organised crime group operation began in December last year when the Australian Border Force examined a shipping container out of Hong Kong. That shipping container was found to contain gel bra inserts, and hidden inside those gel bra inserts was 190 litres of liquid methamphetamine.
The ring allegedly imported 720 litres of meth into New South Wales. Last year, Australian authorities set up a national task force to tackle a crystal meth epidemic after finding around 2.1% of the population had sampled the drug in some form in 2014.